Hello and welcome to Third Eye Thinkers. I am your co-host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm your co-host, Megan Benanti.
I switched it up there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. And you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. I'm glad to bring in the new year. This has been good.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of coming out of my little shell over the, my Lyft driver. I lifted here today, and he asked me, and that's why it's kind of a little craziness, but he was like, "Oh, how were your holidays?" And I was like, they started in like at Halloween and haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And finally they slowed down, and I'm happy about that. I'm not complaining; they were good, but I'm glad just to feel like things are back to normal a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. When I was getting in the car today, it was that feeling of like, oh, isn't it amazing how much we can get done with our personal lives and our ambitions and goals and stuff when we're not celebrating Christmas?
I know.
We're not Christmas shopping and worrying about other people and running off to different things.
Oh,
and
but
so I just...
Yeah, but speaking of worrying about other people, Megan is always so sweet and always like kind. You're so giving. And so she brought me, you guys, you got to see this little ornament. I'm hoping that shows up. Yeah. So this little Third Eye Thinkers ornament.
It's awesome.
It's a third eye. It's awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yes.
So.
And I just brought her some corgi socks because she had her little corgi.
Yeah, I
baby.
have two Welsh corgis. So.
Yes.
So she got me corgi socks and the corgis have little bandanas on them. It's very cute.
Yeah, it was pretty funny though. They were like down in the bottom of my purse, not wrapped all pretty. She brings this nice bag, everything all wrapped in tissue, and I'm like, here, let me dig out these, corgis for you. And finally, I found them.
It's
Here's
okay. It just came straight from the store. So.
Here's some socks. Let me take the price tag off. And so anyway, when I was picking socks, I didn't have to use a pendulum, but that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about pendulums. And I was thinking, man, when you go up to all those socks that are so cute.
Oh, how do you pick?
How do you pick? You could use a pendulum. So we decided to talk about pendulums and how to use them and what to use them for.
Right. Yeah. No. And I was kind of excited by this because I use pendulums some, but it's not a standard modality for me. And so this was kind of exciting to get into and see some of the things that Michelle does with it, because over at Soultopia, she sells pendulums. And so, they're going to have a lot more experience and expertise in that. So,
yeah. Well, some people it's different modalities, whichever one, people are most comfortable with. I think one of the big things people want to know to start with is, how to pick a pendulum. And I would just say, a lot of people will say, well, you should ask it if it wants to work with you. Well, if you don't know how yet to work a pendulum, then you may not know how to say, well, do you want to work with me, little pendulum? Because you don't know yet. So in your first one, would just go to the one you're drawn to. I always like a heavier base or crystal to the pendulum. I like to feel the pendulum because you could use a string with a button on it and it would work. They started with the dowsing rods and when they would look for water, even oil and things like that. But so sometimes the way they would even predict babies before we had sonograms. Now the pendulum's called, I guess, a sonogram, but it used to be a string with a button on it.
Yeah.
But to me, that's kind of hard because I like to feel something on the end of that string.
Yeah, the weight.
Chain. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have one of mine is on a wire, so that to me also creates kind of a different effect with swinging it.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, and that's actually my oldest one that I've got. Pendulums are kind of interesting. They've been around a long time, and the first person to scientifically get into them was Galileo Galilei. And that was the standard way of telling time for forever, and the most accurate thing they had until the 1930s when quartz came out with the clock, which changed our timing system. So pendulums have been around a long time scientifically, and then people in the general world, because it's such a basic tool, were using it to figure out the birth of a baby, a sense of direction, asking yes and no questions, which is really what it's ideal for. Because a lot of times we say in the tarot that you don't necessarily want to ask yes or no questions because it limits the answers you can get. But with a pendulum, you're really looking directly at that.
I agree with that. So I think that the yes and no's are great. The which show me choosing between things and it'll pull in a certain direction. That's great. I use them for healing, which if I want to maybe get rid of a headache, I might go counterclockwise, or somebody has a stomach ache or whatever it is. I'll go clockwise to pull out that's not beneficial, doesn't serve the person, or is hurting, whatever it is. And then I'll go clockwise and put healing energy back in with the pendulum.
That's nice.
It's have you ever tried that?
No.
Well, you're so good with your healings. You might want to try that because it's really cool. I mean, it's just another thing to add in. People will use them also to check, the chakras and things like that. But I literally will just sometimes, especially it seems like headaches.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to try it on you next time.
Yeah, because I text her and I'll be all like, okay, work on my headache. I've got a headache. And apparently mine is stemming from my neck and maybe jaw.
Yeah.
And that's why they're back, because I really don't have migraines anymore. But I'll text Megan, all right, please work on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's awesome.
Thank you.
So, but that's, you choose the pendulum. And a lot of people, once you choose it, one of the things they'll also be is kind of with any of the modalities, I think, some people have a question of, are you opening up a portal? Like, and that does come up sometimes, because some people like to teach all the things that could go wrong. I don't typically start there. I start with, let's be positive and let's not bring about fear, but let's just always ask for protection like we would do in everything else. Like we've said that we do at the beginning of every show, and that everything be in the readings and whatever we do for the highest and best good. And I do believe in protection with calling on Archangel Michael is what I do, or other things that crystals that I use. But I just don't think that I have kind of different take on portals. I think we're all a portal. Is the minute we're asking something of our higher selves or source, why isn't that a portal? So I just don't do this whole thing of, ooh, you're opening a portal, you better, make sure you close that portal when you're finished. A lot of people do. They go through a lot of ceremony with pendulums. Yeah. So if that is what resonates with you, then certainly do that. For me, I just see it as another vehicle or a tool to use.
Right, yeah. Because I guess I feel like I'm kind of the tube of information, and I'm just using that as a tool to emphasize what the answer would be.
I agree with you.
So,
yeah. Which is, so I just don't like to start with the fear of, oh my goodness, that's scary, or oh my goodness, that's scary. I think people sometimes want to find something scary in something, and it's not, to me, I just don't resonate with that. But if people do, then certainly do everything you need to do. I will say, when you buy one from, like, say, Soultopia or any other store or place you might go, or you get maybe one gifted to you, you may want to clear it. And all the ways that we've talked about on the podcast before, you can sage it, you can put it in a singing bowl, you can sing over it, you could, gently speak to it, whatever your way, you spray. But another way is to light a candle. And then you will just hold your pendulum right, let's say the wick is right here. You just hold it until it stops spinning. Okay, this one's pretty clear. I'm going to make it move. So let's say it was really spinning. You don't want to burn it. You don't want to hold it too close to the flame, but just above it, and then it'll stop. Another way people have said is you could bury it, like they say that about crystals. Just put it back to Mother Earth and bury it. I say mark the spot if you do that, and also, you're going to get, there's chains and things. I just think that it could get messed up on a pendulum. Grubby. Unless you put it maybe in a little bag that helps to carry it. Another thing I've heard is people say put it in the freezer. And okay, well, great. I tried it though. And when it came out, the chain was all kinked up. And you don't want that. You don't want an all crooked chain to try to do pendulum work.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, if you're just clearing it, you could defrost it, I guess. But
it's just, why do all that? You don't need to. You can even just speak over it with and set your intention with it. But I do use the candle a lot. Let me take that back. I don't use it a lot. When I first get one, I will use it. Or if for some reason I feel like I'm not really clicking with the pendulum and it's not really answering me. Maybe, I don't want to say not truthfully, but maybe I just feel like it's kind of wonky. I'll just go ahead and clear it again.
I just kind of put mine in the windowsill to get sunshine.
Perfect.
And so that's my typical clearing method with
That's
all my
great.
crystals.
That's an easy, totally easy way. You can do that in the moonlight too.
Oh, nice.
The windowsill.
Okay.
You don't have to get all the crystals out in the moonlight. And you know, your pendulum may not be crystal. It may be, you know, it may be wood. It may be. We have copper ones. We have brass ones. I've seen, you know, like I said, you can use a button.
Right.
But if it's a crystal, you any of them, you might want to clear it at the very, very beginning.
I will say one of the ones that I like that Michelle has here has the crystal is in a ball form, and then it has a metal tip on it. And I really like this because I have chipped the tips of my pendulums before, and it's kind of a bummer.
It is.
So yeah, so this is nice because then you don't have to worry about it getting damaged.
This is one of the first ones I had. It was actually not this particular one. This is opalite, but it was this shape, and it was in rose quartz. And you make a really good point because they do chip. The ones, some of the other crystals may chip, and then it doesn't have that little good point. And somebody has asked me before, you know, opinion. Oh, can you still work with it? It doesn't have, you know, is it damaged? And I'm like, I relate crystals to us. I'm like, well, we break sometimes, but we still work. But with the pendulums, you know, it makes us even better. We grow from that. So the crystals, we don't throw away your crystal just because it has a little. But when it's the point of it like that, it's not, you know, and especially if you're doing like a chart with a bunch of like maybe A, B, C, D, and you're spelling something out.
Right.
That'd be really hard to know. You'd have to kind of go by the pull because you don't have that little tip of it anymore.
Pointing, yeah.
Yeah. They also, this isn't one of them, but they also, and I wish I'd brought one. They also have them where there's little chambers at the top, and you can twist off the top and put little, for you, would be great, a little herb, little plant, little something, or essential.
Nice.
I was just thinking
prayers
of
inside.
Yeah, you could put, I was thinking with your herbs and plants and things. But they're little bitty chambers, but they're really heavy, so I like that too.
Yeah, that's
it's one
nice.
of my favorites, and I don't know where that one is, but that point is kind of important to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I've got this one that the point is a wee bit chipped. It's real tiny, but I still work with it fairly regularly. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know,
yeah, it was kind of powerful.
Yeah, I love that one. I think you worked with that one when I first met you.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, it was on your table at your reader table.
Yep.
At your house or in your studio. And so another thing, I was just kind of looking at my notes, that some things that people ask us or I get asked of, and I know, Megan, you have other things to say. I'm not trying to monopolize.
Oh, no,
here.
you're great.
But, you know, they'll ask if you need a different pendulum for different purposes.
That's kind of a good question, actually.
And so the answer is, I don't think so. If you start really liking your pendulums, it's just like tarot decks. You know, you might have one deck that you use for certain situations, or you may have one you get really used to using. I think I switch a lot, and they usually will work with me pretty quickly. But you know, it's just whether or not, I don't think you have to spend the money is what I'm trying to say. If you love them and you want to, then yeah, sure, you might have one for healing. You may have one that you use for just asking yes, no, for your personal questions.
Right.
But I don't think you have to get a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I would agree you don't have to, but if you want to focus a particular energy, you know, that crystal that could emphasize that might be good to work with. And so you can have a variety. The woman that introduced me to pendulums, she actually had a really nice little board with little tiny nails on it, and the pendulums hung down on those. Of course, I walk in and I look at it and the board breaks. So,
ooh, that's kind of freaky.
Yeah, it was kind of wild.
That's kind of cool, though.
Actually, or maybe the pendulum broke. I mean, it was just it was weird, but I was like, sorry.
But see, the thing is that some people, if their pendulum, if that happened, if their pendulum broke or the board broke, they might be like, oh no, they jump immediately to, I'm not supposed to work with this or something like that. And I love how you're just like, oh, sorry, okay, let me get my pendulum.
Yeah, no,
right?
She was not. Yeah, and she was like, oh, no big deal. Like,
See,
she wasn't stressed at all.
Do you know what I mean? It's not even like stress. They think that maybe there's some, it's giving you a message that you shouldn't work with it or something.
Right.
And we have that, a lot of people. And if you believe that, that's fine. But again, I just don't operate from that fear-based perspective. I operate from the, oh, well, I broke the board.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And, let's pick a pendulum. And it's just like the tips breaking out. Some people will be like, well, that means you're not supposed to work with it anymore. No, to me, it just means it might not be as easy to work with. And you kind of are going, oh, it doesn't look quite the same.
Or if you have a concrete floor like I do and you drop it,
there it goes.
You're kind of screwed.
There it goes. And there's not really a reason that happened.
Not the best language, sorry.
It's fine. Not the worst I've heard today. So I think that is really important, the purpose. I think it's really another issue, unless you have something else on that.
No, go for it.
I think getting it to work, probably a lot of our listeners might want to know just how do you get, a pendulum to work? And I'll just tell you guys how I do it. I think when you're first starting, I would maybe have a table that you can put your elbow on, and maybe I'm a little bit low here for this, and then you would hold it between your thumb, and a lot of people will teach your third finger, but I do index finger, but I also want you to know hold my pencil wrong. So I don't know that there's a right and right. I hold my pencil on like the fourth finger instead of the third, and
that's okay.
I fork too. Yeah, they tried to change that.
No judgment.
Yeah, they tried to change that my whole life, and the funny thing is my kids do it too.
Yep, they learn from you.
Yeah, they and the teacher were like, no, their penmanship won't be good. And I was like, I'm a lawyer, and I held it wrong my whole life, so it's fine. They're going to be just fine. They can hold it wherever they want. But anyway, so thumb and index, some people will say thumb and third finger, it's not as easy for you to control it, and your mind will do it more. I mean, not your mind, but whatever's channeling through you to get the information. And then I would just say, if it has a really long chain and you're brand new, you might want to choke up on the chain a little bit to shorten it, just a little bit. I don't know. For me, I just don't like the other part of the chain getting in the way, so I don't always do that. But it does help. And then I just say to set it so you'll know which answers, because some people's no may go in the direction that, like vertically, you'd think a yes would be. So I just say, show me a yes, which is kind of what he's doing, thank you, and then show me a no, and I will switch back. That mine is horizontal. And then if you have a maybe, mine's already doing it. Mine's going in a, what is that?
Circle?
Circle, I can't.
Clockwise.
That's clockwise. So we'll go in that direction, in that direction. So that's how I tell people kind of to set it at the beginning, so they'll know their yes and their no.
Yeah, so before each time that you use your pendulum, it's good to ask, give me a yes, give me a no, and give me a maybe. I usually just go with yes and no.
I do too.
But it can be very helpful, like if you're trying to figure out the name for something. So like I wanted to find out my guide's name, and I asked someone else, I was like, how did you figure that out? She goes, oh, I used a pendulum and I played hangman. Which I thought was brilliant.
It is.
But I just went through the alphabet and literally went through each letter. And so until I came out with the letters that worked, and then I put them together in the order that worked for me. So
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. Tell me about your board you've got there.
Well, so you don't have to have anything. You can just ask questions. You can ask, also, I just want to say, sometimes I go by the pull of it. You'll get used to your pendulum. The biggest thing with pendulums, where you can trust it and not think you're controlling it, is to just work with it a lot. Then you'll know, okay, I'm trusting the answers I'm receiving, especially when you're doing it for yourself. A lot of people will be like, couldn't you make it go in a certain direction? Yes, is the answer. You could, but with your mind. But the more you work with it, you'll know, am I influencing it, or am I trusting what the answer I'm getting? But this board, we have some friends of ours who sell to us, and I don't know if I have it here, Megan.
Yeah, I can see it.
The name of their company is really cool. It's called Smart Ash.
Oh, that's cute.
Isn't that cute? And they sell, incense holders, and they do all these wood. They do our journals too. And Doug and Marina, and they own Smart Ash, and I think it's the email or the website for that is Smart Ash Inc., but Google it, because I always get that last part wrong, .com. I could be wrong, but it's a really clever name. And so the board is just for pendulum boards. You could use it to, I'm going to put it right here. You could start at the base of it in the middle and hold your pendulum over it and ask your question. And then this board happens to have no now, maybe, yes, unknown, wait, no. So depending on your question and the way it swings, it would give you your answer. Now, it's kind of important to be succinct, pretty clear on your questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go as crazy as a lot of people do about that, though, because you could be forever asking, you know, they'll kind of go, well, maybe that was a past life. And I'm like, no, I usually set my intention in this lifetime for me, blah, 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 you know, because you could forever just
Go
come
through
up,
that.
oh, it must be in a different dimension. No, you know, unless you say that's what you're asking
Right.
for this life. So you ask your question, and then it'll swing. Sometimes what I'll do, you guys, is I'll say bigger if it's kind of barely moving. And so when it starts to swing, I'm going to hold it the way I hold it. It's like this. When it starts to swing, I'll say, and I'm kind of leaning over here I'll say bigger. And sometimes if I really didn't choke up on it here, it would really get going.
Well,
big.
it was pretty big.
Really big. How much it swings is not that important unless it's important to you. Like maybe it's normally doesn't swing a lot, and then all of a sudden it just takes off. That might mean like, oh, wow.
Right. Well, and one thing to keep in mind, too, is you don't have to have a specific board. You can literally draw your own board on paper and work with your pendulum over that. That would work as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you don't choke up on your chain, that does give it more swing motion. I will say, I mean, part of this is working off your body's vibrations. But you have to understand that, again, you are channeling that information and you're working with your higher power. And so it is trusting that you are getting the correct answer. And this is just a tool to help you do that. Because, you know, a lot of times you get that, you know, we have a hard time trusting ourselves. And so this is it just makes it that much more simple.
I agree with you. I think one thing that's kind of funny for me is I get overwhelmed at like Sprouts or places like that where they'll say, well, you need to, let's just pretend like it was like vitamin C or something. You need to go get some vitamin C. This is the first thing that came to my mind. And you go in and there's so many brands. So you might just want to get, you know, maybe they haven't told you exactly which one. And you could do this with anything, a car even, I mean, whatever. But you may just want to pull like 3, maybe the bottle you're drawn to, the prettiest bottle, the most expensive, the least expensive, whatever. You don't, and you could choose between the 3. Or you could just say, sort of guide me to which part of the shelf I'm supposed to be on. We even play a game sometimes where we hide things, and it's kind of like that hot or cold with the pendulum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it'll just help you find it. So that's a good way to practice too. But I like what you said. You absolutely do not have to have a board. You can even write things, and kind of like the shell game where you don't, if you want to take your mind out of a little bit, and you don't have to do this, but some people want to, and just not see which one, mix them up and have like maybe 3 choices and see which one, after you ask your question, if it's about yourself especially, that the pendulum swings towards. And you can practice with someone else. It's kind of fun, like if we were to practice. And after you set, you know, your yes or your no, and if you're going to set a maybe, and Megan might have, she absolutely knows her first car that she ever owned, and she'd ask me, you know, very straight face, my first car was green, and then I'll use my pendulum to answer yes or no, and don't be hard on yourself. If you don't get it, that's okay. You know, it's developing a relationship with working with this modality.
Right, and for you, that might also give you some answers as far as like, okay, maybe I'm, you know, maybe that's something I need to pay attention to, you know, as far as the direction it went. Maybe there's information in that for me that I need to start learning and understanding.
Yeah.
So
they're really fun, and they're really pretty. I absolutely love, is that a black onyx? Yeah, it's just beautiful, and the shape is different than a lot of them. You want to show yours real quickly?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
And it's got a little quartz on top, so.
There's that one.
Yeah, it's a big old fat boy. It felt really powerful, but it just felt like what I needed. And it's kind of nice. It has a short chain on it. So with a bead at the top, which gives you something to just like set between your fingers.
Yeah, that's a great way how she's doing it too. I usually pinch it. That's probably better, you guys, to hold it with the little bead.
I don't know if I'm in there, Matt, but.
I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, it's cool.
And you've got a is that sodalite?
Yeah.
Sodalite.
And it's got like the chakra colors on there, and then a little doohickey of like gems at the top.
Yeah.
So
Not
yeah, they're
beautiful.
fun.
One thing is Roger will have classes to make them,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
those are
that's
some of the
nice.
most popular classes. And we have these. I can actually just take this off, my necklace, sorry, this being my necklace on a leather
Strap.
string or strap. And you could use this one, use your crystal necklace or a necklace even. I'll even take them all off sometimes if I don't have anything else. You can use a lot of different things. Once
Yeah.
eventually you can use your body. Your inner body will just start sort of telling you yes or no, and you could even sort of feel it like you're a pendulum.
That's kind of interesting. And this is not off topic, but I went to a bar mitzvah service one time, and at that synagogue, the gentlemen, they would rock when they would sing, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And it's an undulating motion, and it is very soothing, but, as an outsider, you're like, huh, what's going on there? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but it is very much a pendulum motion. Mm-hmm. And now, from a more spiritual level, I'm wondering if that is almost like, in and of itself, a bit of a meditation.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's a great thing to think about. It soothes me, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just because I like that motion. But if you go inward and you're like, yes, nose kind of a little more like that'd be my nose back horizontal. That'd be kind of
Well, yeah,
weird.
And when we sit in a rocking chair, we don't rock sideways.
But we feel it. You can just kind of feel it. And it's the same with the pendulum. You just kind of feel that tug. Like when it goes, you kind of know. Mm-hmm. And especially the more you work with them. I will tell you guys, and I didn't tell Megan this, I hope this is okay, but I have a little flip book I've been working on for like 2 years of charts.
Oh, great.
They have everything. And so finally we decided, because it's finished. So it's now being put together with a pretty cover, and we're gonna sell it just at Soultopia. It's like a calendar, but it's thick. It's got everything. You can use it for where was I in my most important past life, besides what the life I'm dealing with now, something I need to know from a past life. Those kind of questions to, like you said, it's got the ABCD. You could even do that. To animal totems, to crystals, to herbs, essential oils. What else? Just anything you can think of. I just went on and on making these boards. Years of past lives, what you were. Were you a man, or it has at the top, was I male or female?
Oh, that's nice. So is a lot of it pendulum based, or is it based to work with different tools?
It's pendulum.
Oh, okay.
The whole
very
thing
cool.
is pendulum. And because I'm just, I'm like, oh, we can make it better. Oh, let's change this. Oh, let's do this. I've been working on it for 2 years. So, so it's a fun way. It's a fun little modality.
Cool. Very cool. Well, what did you bring for a crystal today?
Okay. So I was so busy going, okay, which crystal do you get I get that question a lot, which crystal? Right. And so I did opalite. The interesting thing about opalite, you guys, is that it is man-made. The other interesting thing to me about it is that it's our best-selling quote-unquote crystal at Soultopia. People just love it. This pendulum right here is opalite. It looks a lot like moonstone. It is not. And I actually, on my Soultopia Facebook, have a little article I wrote, not an article, like a little, 2-paragraph thing about, what's so bad about it being man-made? And we're not that bad, really. And so people just love it because it has that kind of bluish effect if you put it on a black background. But if you put it on like a different color background, it'll kind of have an orangish yellow effect.
Yes, and it kind of glows in and of itself.
Yeah. And so we just, moonstone, of course. It's funny because you'd think it'd be most compared to like opal, right? But it's not. It's kind of comparing it a lot to moonstone. Mm-hmm. Moonstone being the natural and opalite being the man-made. But that's what I brought. Just because I thought, you can use whatever you want for your pendulums. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be the most expensive whatever. It's just what you connect to.
Right. And what are particular properties of opalite, or what does it help with?
A lot actually. It's interesting because it's very soothing. It's that rocking motion we were just talking about.
Yes.
Just that soothing motion. That's what I think about when I think about opalite, and I think it just is an uplifting. It's maybe not like an orange or yellow stone of total happy, but it's just that soothing,
Right.
calmness.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. And I brought in bayberry today, which is, we use both the root and the bark on that. And I picked it not because we were doing pendulums. I was really having a hard time finding a plant that would connect, but it's also winter and it's the peak of flu season, and people are having a hard time with cedar and stuff right now. So this is a decongestant and astringent. And so bayberry was kind of a good choice for that. It reduces fever. It's good for circulation, hypothermia and ulcers. It helps stop bleeding. And it's good for your eyes and your immune system. And we use the wax from the berries to make fragrance and candles. So that's where a lot of our familiarity comes with it. It's a beautiful plant. They also have some that have more bluish berries, and it could be that those are the more immature berries. I put the red ones up since those are the mature look. But it says, just don't use it for long periods of time or in high dosages. But if you're looking at, feeling a little run down right now, you might go and look in your, at your natural grocers or your Whole Foods, and maybe something with bayberry in it or a bayberry elixir could be good for you at the moment.
Is that the little red, the ones that are really bright red that grow on the green?
No. I love that. Red berries on green leaves.
Yeah, that's it. That's about as specific as I'm going to get on that. But they almost look fake.
Right. No, these are actually pretty large.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of a pyracantha or firethorn.
I am sure that is the right word.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Most of your berries are going to benefit your birds and bugs and animals outside in general. So berries tend to be good. We also have the Yopon holly. The females of that have red berries.
That might be.
We can get Yopon hollies actually make tea in Texas. They used to make, until we got Asian herbs in to make tea. We always made tea from Yopon hollies because it's caffeinated. So,
wow.
But nobody does that anymore. So I don't know if it tastes really bad. I know in Austin they'll make it, but
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, those are beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
And then you could get to the store, and when you said something with it in it, and then you could use your pendulum to decide which something.
Right. Which herbal remedy would be best for you.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea. Go take your pendulum to the grocery.
Yes. Now, I will say something about that. You can. And I think if you're in Sprouts or Whole Foods, you won't get, people won't stare at you like, ooh. But in Walmart or something they may, or, like at Dillard's, or I don't know, I'm just trying to think of any store, whatever, in a normal, you know what I mean? But they kind of are with it. Oh,
right.
Boy, I'm digging my hole deeper. They kind of get it in Sprouts and Whole Foods. But what's funny is that I've done it before, and people, you think they're going to go, ooh, that's creepy, and they don't. They go, ooh, will you show me how that works?
Yep.
But what's irritating, I will say, is when you get so addicted to your pendulum that you're literally, okay, let's put out 50 rings, and we're going to pendulum yes or no for every single, and some people are standing behind you waiting,
Right.
You don't need to do that. That's when you kind of group it.
Right. And, if you have any issues with like compulsive obsessive disorder, that kind of thing, you've got to be careful. I've seen people that won't pick any food unless they have a pendulum, and they tend to be very skinny. So
good point. Maybe I need to try that.
Great way to diet, right?
Check. Note that. Yeah.
You don't want to get overly obsessed with it. It's a tool, but it doesn't have to be your most defining moment.
It doesn't. That's right. We've talked a lot. We're over, right, Matt?
I think we're about at time.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening today and joining us at Third Eye Thinkers. We hope that you'll subscribe to our show and give us a 5-star review. We're available on all the podcast forums and on YouTube. And we look forward to having you listen to us next week. Thanks for Third Eye Thinking.
Bye.
Bye.